September 18th, 2020. Good evening. We will call this City Council meeting for Monday, September 18th, 2023 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk will take the roll.
Council members Fleming, Larson.
Here.
Masolia.
Here.
Newland.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Soroya. Mayor Sanders.
Here. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the chambers this evening. We're glad you could join us. Don't see any awards or presentations on the agenda this evening, so we'll jump right into communications, which is an opportunity for members of council to provide any updates or communications they may have for the good of the public. Is there any communications or announcements this evening from council or staff? Seeing and hearing none, we'll just move right along into the open forum. The open forum is an opportunity for the public to present an issue or concern to the city council. There's a maximum of 15 minutes set aside for the open forum, and each presentation should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. If your item needs follow-up from staff, the staff will arrange for that follow-up and contact you to let you know what is being done on that issue. With that, I want to thank you all for being here. If by chance you are here as well for the public hearing, which is agenda item 9, you do not need to address that during the open forum. You can save those comments for the public hearing. So with that, if there's anyone here this evening that wishes to participate in the open forum, you can go ahead and make your way up to the podium, and we'd love to hear comments this evening. All right, good evening, welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jessica Barr. My address is 116 91st Lane Northeast in Blaine. I'm just here to give you an update about the Humane Pet Store ordinance that we've been working on for the past 4 years. We did meet with the owner of Four Paws and a Tail for 2 hours and got absolutely nowhere. We can come to no agreement because he is in denial that he sells from puppy mills. It's well known that Hillsborough, Wisconsin is an epicenter for puppy mill puppies, and we have numerous citations of puppies sold at his store of USDA violations for conditions that the puppies are living in. And I just wanted to provide some more information because we understand he is concerned that this is going to put him out of business, but we are here to help him. We are here to help the puppies. We are here to protect consumers. This is not about putting pet stores out of business. It is about promoting a humane and successful business model. Stores that sell only pet supplies, according to the World Pet Association, this is a 2018 Retail Operating Performance Report. It's the only thing that I can find that's recent, that showed pet stores that only sell pet supplies made $157 more per square foot of space than stores that sell live animals. This is because it's a reputation issue. People will not go to a pet store that sells puppy mills. Many people in Blaine, I'm sure there's some of you that know they sell puppy mill puppies, and we refuse to go there. We have other options in Blaine. That's where we go for our pet supplies. He can get our business if he chooses to adopt a humane pet store ordinance. As of November 2019, there have been 24 pet stores across 11 states that have successfully converted to a humane store pet store model, and since then have adopted out, through partnership with rescues, shelters, over 20,000 dogs since this report. So the Humane Society of the United States is on standby. We are willing to offer support. They have a program to help them with the transition. It increases name recognition for the store, provides consumer loyalty, financial support, word-of-mouth outreach, repeat visitors, strong community ties, thanks to their partnership with local animal shelters. They get a free listing of their store at on the Humane HSUS Puppy Friendly Pet Stores webpage and in other media. They get a free listing through HSUS phone texting application so shoppers can find them from anywhere. They get, basic guidance through this process. They're here to answer questions about, the benefits of providing adoptable animals through their store. They can get advice from other store owners that have already converted to the Humane Store model. We have Angel's Pet World in Wisconsin, Hudson, Wisconsin, that she is willing to work with this business owner. So we are really here to provide a better community for promoting the welfare of puppies, basically protecting consumers from, ill puppies that have died. They're spending thousands of dollars already on the puppy, and then they spend thousands of dollars for a puppy that, in some cases has died several days after adoption or purchase, and they don't get that money back. He has refused refunds. So this is really it's a win-win situation for both the business, the puppies and consumers, and the reputation of Blaine. So please consider this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate that. Is there anyone else here this evening that wishes to participate in the open forum? All right, not seeing anyone rush up to the podium, we'll move along in the agenda. Next item that we'll consider is the approval of the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case it will be removed from the consent agenda and will be placed in its normal sequence on the agenda. Members, a motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Robertson, second by Councilmember Massolia. Any questions or discussion of the consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion prevails. Next item up is public hearings, agenda item number 9. We'll start with agenda item 9.1, and we will turn things over to our Community Standards Director and Fire Marshal, Mr. Fisk.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. The public hearing item in front of you for consideration tonight is an application for a sober living home license and a request for reasonable accommodations under the Federal Fair Housing Amendment Act of 1988, which would allow more than 4 unrelated adults recovering from chemical dependency to live in a home located at 691 87th Lane Northeast, known as a sober living home. Meraki Recovery Housing is also asking for this reasonable accommodations to allow 14 residents and 2 live-in managers for a total of 16 residents to live in this home. Their application is attached. So the application for the single-family residential home located at 691 87th Avenue Northeast, Blaine, Minnesota, to be operated as a sober living home as defined by our city ordinance, is a large 2-story with 5,777 square feet, built in 1994. It has 9 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, 2 laundry rooms, and 6 garage stalls on a 0.86 acre lot. Under our city ordinance, the application requirements has a list of requirements that must be provided. The description, number, and size of bedrooms, item 1 and item 2, the basic floor plan of the dwelling, are attached, and you can see the layouts of the 3 different floors of that location. A scaled site plan of the property showing the housing, the driveway, and garage were provided. There is a site survey and Anoka County parcel information and map attached to this report. Description, number of off-street parking. There's a copy of the drawing showing the house and the driveways attached. One comment on the parking plan, locations 6 and 7 would not be acceptable because they are in a rear yard and it's not a paved area, so those would have to be relocated. That is noted later in the report. Property management plan, Meraki Recovery Housing has provided a copy of their resident requirements and their management plan. They also are required to have a crime-free, drug-free lease amendment. A copy of that document's been attached. Once the residents are identified, those residents and the owners would have to sign those and provide copies to the city. And then proof of membership with the Minnesota Association of Sober Homes, or MASH, that outlines additional living standards and criteria for safety, health, and house management. A MASH certification inspection would be conducted once the home is approved for use, and then a copy of that certification would be provided to the city. In addition to the requirements for the sober living license, for the reasonable accommodations, there are several questions that our city ordinance requires be answered by the applicant. And the first is whether this is a qualified disability. Under the Federal Fair Housing Amendment Act of 1988, alcoholism is deemed a disability. Whether the request is needed to allow disabled persons equal opportunity to use or enjoy the dwelling or to live in a particular neighborhood as a person without disabilities. Again, in accordance with our ordinance, a request is needed to allow more than 4 unrelated adults. Is the request reasonable and considering the potential impact and surrounding use, extent to which the accommodations meet the stated need, and other alternatives that may meet the need? The applicant believes the need to increase the number of persons in the home is necessary to provide a strong support group in a residential environment. Staff understands the applicant's request, and based on information provided in the past for their existing licensed sober living home in Blaine, staff finds this request reasonable. Whether a request would constitute a fundamental alteration to city regulations, it does not constitute a fundamental alteration. Would it impose undue financial hardship, undue financial administrative burden on the city? It does not. There are licensing fees required for the process. Number, nature, and extent of the requested accommodations in relation to the physical limitations of the building. The home, as stated, is a very large 9-bedroom, 6-bathroom home on a large lot with ample off-street parking for 10 vehicles. This home would be able to house 16 residents as requested. Other factors that have a bearing on the request. The applicant has a purchase agreement with the seller contingent on receiving approval from the Blaine City Council for use as a sober living home in the reasonable accommodations requested. If council approves the application and accommodations, once the applicant has ownership of the home, the following will have to be completed prior to the sober living home license being issued. A housing inspection by the Community Standards Department would be required, and any violations found would be required to be corrected prior to issuance of the license. As mentioned earlier, they will have to have an inspection by MASH and get their property certified. All occupants would have to complete the crime-free, drug-free housing lease addendums. And as I mentioned before, the parking plan would have to be modified. Meraki Recovery Housing currently has a licensed sober living home located at 913 121st Avenue in Blaine, which was licensed for 9 residents in 2021. There have been no complaints filed with the Community Standards Department, and the police department reports having only 9 calls going back to, and I have a typo here, it should say April 18th, 4/18 of 2019, not 2013, 2019. 8 of those calls were for medicals, and 1 was for a missing person report. Staff recommendation, council is asked to hold a public hearing, take comment, then close the public hearing based on the information provided, and assuming the remaining application licensing requirements above are met, staff recommends approval.
All right, thank you, Bob. Really appreciate the presentation. At this point in time, I am going to open the public hearing. If I could just get a show of hands, who's planning on participating in the public hearing? Okay, excellent, quite a few. So what I'm going to do is anyone that wants to speak is welcome to speak, but I'm going to ask that each of you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. I saw about 15-ish, 20 hands go up there, so we do have a full agenda this evening. But anybody that wants to speak, certainly welcome to speak. We just ask you please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. And if you've heard someone else state your position really strongly, you can just let us know you agree. We don't need to hear it 4 or 5 times, but you're, again, welcome to speak here this evening. So at this point in time, I'll open up the public hearing. The first person that would like to come up, go ahead and come up to the podium, and you can have your 3 minutes. right, welcome. Yeah, come on up. Don't be shy. Sounds like we got a lot of folks. So if you would, please just state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, I'm Monty Cook. My address is 8470 Cottagewood Terrace Northeast. Sorry for my dyslexia there. So I do have some concerns under this. I noticed on the letter they said that the residents would be considered disabled, and that raises concerns that this may actually meet the definition of a supervised living facility under Minnesota State Statute 144.50 subdivision 6, in which case it would be subject to a moratorium under Minnesota State Statute 252.291. Alternatively, since we don't actually know any information entirely about the applicants other than it is a sober living facility, we can assume that would likely mean some sort of criminal background. That means they could be subject to residential restrictions such as next to schools, parks, public facilities of that kind. And if my house is within 350 feet of it, I know that Little Bit Park is within 150 feet of it. And there's also a school nearby. Alternatively, it may also meet the definition, excuse me while I pull this up here. Oh, this one's actually on my phone. I apologize. I was very rushed getting ready for this. But I'm also curious if it meets the definition of housing with services, in which case it would be required to have 80% of its residents to be age 55 or older. And I'm sorry, I don't have that pulled up at the moment. I'll let other people get up here. I can get back to you with the statute number on that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. We'll have staff kind of look at those things as we're going here. All right, who would like to come up next? All right, welcome, ma'am. Name and address for the record, please.
Sure, Krista Johnson, 732 129th Avenue Northeast, Blaine, Minnesota. I am the owner and field manager, Meraki Recovery Housing. Thank you for having us here tonight and seeing us. I hope I can answer quite a few questions by going at the beginning here. Nice to see some familiar faces from last time and a lot of new faces this time. One thing that has significantly changed since we opened our first house in Blaine 5 years ago is stigma and shame related to mental health and addiction and substance use disorder has really, really changed. There's way less stigma than there ever was before in 2018. Also, there's way more awareness. We have way more awareness than we did 5 years ago to the current status. So it's a lot easier to come up and talk about mental health and addiction and substance use disorder than it was 5 years ago. So that's a significant change from last time I was up here. So this month is also National Recovery Month, which people are aware of, and that's awareness. Today also is a kickoff for Washington, D.C. Mobilized Recovery, 3-day event going on in Washington, D.C. in recognition of advocacy for recovery. So happy to report that there is more awareness around this, and it definitely has helped us. Meraki means to put your heart, soul, passion into the work that you do. That's the meaning of the word Meraki. That is definitely what me, my husband, my field manager, and my team believe in. It is our heart, it is our soul, it is our passion, and we believe we can make a difference in people's lives through sober living. That's why we do what we do here. Our dream and goal is to shut down sober houses. I would like nothing more than to start shutting them down instead of adding them. Unfortunately, statistically, the need is steadily increasing instead of decreasing. We have a backup plan, and our goal is that one day it will be better, and we will be decreasing. But as of today, the increase is there. Since opening the first sober house for Meraki was the Blaine one, thank you for that. We have opened in the last 5 years 6 sober houses, 5 of which are in Anoka County. We do have 4 houses that are 14 residents in Anoka County. We know how to do that. We know how it works. We have systems, procedures, policies. I advocate on a legislative level. do outreach work. I'm on the board of MASH, so I'm really involved in the recovery community and how to run good sober houses. One of our biggest focuses is being a good neighbor. It's so important for us. And we talk about it, if not every single house meeting, at least once a month at house meetings. What does it mean to be a good neighbor? What does that look like? What do we have to do? You know, part of that is.
I'll give you an extra 3 minutes since you're the applicant
Sure,
here.
part of
Yep.
that is maintaining our houses, so I can reassure neighbors that that is our focus on that. I could give statistics and talk all day about overdose, suicide, mental health in our own county, in our own neighborhoods, but we know those numbers. What I can tell you is what we're doing is working, right? In the 5 years, we've seen hundreds of people find recovery through Meraki Recovery Housing. Our first resident ever that walked into the door of our Blaine house today just celebrated 5 years of sobriety. He is married, has bought a house in Anoka County, started a business in Anoka County, and is one of the most active members of his church. I can tell you hundreds of those stories, you know what I mean? And that's what we're doing. I know 16 sounds like a lot, but it's not. It really isn't. It's what we need. We need support. We need people in that house to connect. Connection is recovery. Isolation is death. So we need people. When I go into my 14-bed houses, any given time of the day, I'm going to see 3 or 4 people home, depending on if they're second shift workers, night shift, whatever, because they're busy people. They're either working, they're in outpatient treatment, they're at meetings, they're doing appointments. There's a lot of things. So in a 14-bed house, there isn't 14 people sitting around watching TV. I'm seeing 3 or 4 people any given time of the day, other than curfew in the evening, which half of them are in bed because they work day shift. So it's different than you can imagine. So I can just tell you, trust me when we say we're experienced, we know what we're doing. We have a solid reputation in the state of Minnesota in the recovery community and in Anoka County, and work with a large portion of services in Anoka County. So not to take up too much time, I'm happy to follow up with any questions from the council or questions from anybody else.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, who would like to speak next?
Sorry, I should add, the housing with services is defined in Minnesota State Statute 144 Delta.01.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Fatima Farid, and I live on 8605 Polk Street, Northeast in Blaine, right on Lady Lake, which is very, like across the street, basically like 2 streets away from the property that we are talking about. I have 6 kids. My kids like to play in this neighborhood. We live across the street from a Little Bit Park. The street we are talking about for that property, it's a dead-end street. It's very safe. Kids like to bike there. It's very calm neighborhood, and as she was saying, the person just speaking before me, there is gonna be constant movement for 16 people in and out, lots of traffic, lots of cars, and this neighborhood is quiet and peaceful and safe, and we would like to keep it like that. Sober home comes with people who are recovering from drugs, and I really don't want that around any children in the neighborhood. Those people, like, struggling with drugs, and they are trying to recover, and we do fully support them, but away from our neighborhood, because the street is dead end and quiet. It's next to 2 parks, actually. And I really like the neighborhood, and I would like to keep it that way. And I'm afraid that we already have problem with Lady Lake Park, and people coming in for drugs and doing drugs in there. So I'm happy that the police is doing something about it over there, but I don't want to increase the traffic and increase the problem by having a sober home. I am completely, totally against it, and I hope that you consider. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, who is next?
Hello, my name is Kimberly Brooks, and I live at 740 87th Lane. So I am, I think, about house and a half kitty corner from this proposed location. Just to kind of echo a little bit of what was said earlier, we live on a dead-end street. There's about 18, 19 homes that are currently on that street right now. So adding 16 unrelated residents to one home almost doubles the amount of households you essentially have in this neighborhood on a dead-end street that has approximately 20 children that live kind of in this area, right? So we're talking about really increasing the traffic by quite a bit by having people coming in and out at all different times of day, not to mention the parking situation. On this, on Maracai's website, they do say that everybody is allowed a car. I know there was talk about parking for 8 to 10 cars, but who monitors that? Who controls that there are actually 8 to 10 cars? As you guys know, there's no street parking that's allowed for more than 48 hours per the city ordinance. There's also no parking overnight during the November to April timeframe. So where do those cars park? We don't have sidewalks, so the only way, just talk about the kids in the neighborhood, the only places for us to walk, ride our bikes, scooter, anything, is up and down the street. So if their car is now parked, because there's the residents, there's also residents that are allowed visitors. So it's not just the resident traffic that I'm concerned about coming in and out, it's the resident traffic and their visitors. And with that increase in traffic, with no sidewalks again, where are we to safely walk up and down to the bus stop, et cetera, around our neighborhood? So just a big concern about the amount of the traffic and things that are gonna be brought. Also wanted to bring up the point that this organization, while respect what they do, they have a history of ignoring city ordinances and expanding the number of residents in their other sober homes without approval. In 2019 in Coon Rapids, they went from 6 to 10 ahead of council approval, and then ended up with a U.S. District Court case about that expansion. In 2020, they went from 6 residents to 9 in their Blaine home, and again brought it to the city council after they had already had 9 in their home. So I am concerned about, when we talk about people managing to follow the ordinances and the rules, they have a history of not doing that already. And I'm very concerned that they will continue to do that. I'm concerned that that 14 could go up. I'm concerned they won't listen to the parking. And that's based on their track record. And there's also proof in their court case about why their arguments for the numbers that they had weren't necessarily accepted by the Coon Rapids council, and that's why they took it to court. So just want to kind of throw out there is a history here that we cannot ignore when we think about this request. I think that's my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, who's next? Good evening, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Lori Ryan. I live at 670 87th Lane, which is directly across the street. And I first want to echo everything that was just said. Our concerns are with the safety of our children, families, children of all ages. They're learning to ride their bikes on the street. We don't have sidewalks. We have runners that run our street because it's a dead end. It's a quiet street. Children are on scooters, on bikes, families are pushing strollers. It's beautiful. The blend of our neighborhood is beautiful. And I also echo, please look at the history of this business. The city of Coon Rapids, I believe, is still in litigation because they did not renew their license. They did not renew their license due to 44 violations in the terms of its rental license. They are still in litigation because the business is suing on the basis of discrimination. The judge ruled that it was clearly not granted or renewed because of the 44 violations. Our children, my granddaughter will not be able to learn how to ride her bike there. I'll have to drive her somewhere so that she can learn how to ride a bike. These are good people on the street. We don't deny that a sober house benefits society and these people with these challenges. But if they have visitors and you have 14 residents, that's 28 cars if they each have just one. I don't know where these cars are gonna go. If anyone does not stay sober or drug-free, our children are greatly, greatly at risk because their lives take place up and down this street. The traffic will be, because it's a dead end. No one will escape this. Everyone will have these cars. It won't look anything like our street with this kind of movement.
You have about 30 seconds.
I would urge you to listen to the people who voted you in, to their concerns. They are valid. They are not discriminatory. They are valid for our children and our safety. And I would also argue that an increase, as the vendor mentioned, the increase in the size of a therapy group, I would say that the smaller the therapy group, the more chance there is for success in that program, not the larger number. Do you have data from them? You should ask them for data before you make a decision. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, who's next? All right, good evening, welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Ginger Johnson, 760 87th Lane. I did not receive a letter. I evidently am 351 feet from the property, but it does affect the whole entire street because it is a dead end. I reiterate everything these people have said, but I do stand correcting one that it is over 20 kids that are just on our street. And I'm not going to touch base on what they've said because I 100% agree with what they were saying. I will touch base on the other parts here that I have written down. The question, the oversight, who's responsible for the sober house? Is it, if it's not the city, it's not the state, it's not federal, what is the property going to be zoned? Is it going to be zoned residential still? If it has staff, how could it be zoned residential? I can speak personally from the drugs in our neighborhood because it affected my family personally by some of the people that come and go in our neighborhood that live behind the woods in my property, the whole south side that butt up to the Anoka County Library. Somebody did throw meth, it was determined, over the wall of my property. My brand new dog that I got ate it. And trust me, I'm very thankful it was my dog than the two kids that lived in that house that they went into to throw it over into my yard. So I'm thankful it was my dog. But we can't even clean up the people who are homeless behind our properties. We can't clean up the alleged drug houses that would be their neighbors. How can someone receive treatment to a sober house when they're less than a block away from a liquor store and there's homeless people that have paraphernalia and drug stuff all in the wooded area? I don't see that being too likely of, what is the word I'm looking for? The success rate with all this stuff already against these people who are needing sobriety. If these tenants that are proposed for the sober house, if they refuse to leave, they have to be evicted. If they're evicted, then they're homeless. In my opinion, or in my past experience, if you're homeless, where are they going? They're going behind my property in the woods. So I'm solely against this for numerous reasons, and I stand behind everything else that has already been said.
Thank you very much for coming. All right, good evening, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Carol Jacobs, and I live at 8738 Tyler Street, Northeast. I'm just about 3 blocks away from the property that we're talking about tonight. And according to their website, Meraki's vision and mission statement is as follows, quote, "Our belief is that providing stable, sober housing for people in recovery will benefit those in recovery and the community that they live in. We are here to help guide you in your journey while giving you a safe, clean place to live, unquote. On my daily walks, I either walk near or right by this residence, and this last week I paid special consideration to its location. Literally 182 steps west of the residence's driveway, just past the cul-de-sac across a little connecting sidewalk, I was staring at a number of Northtown area businesses within 1 to 2 blocks. One of those businesses is the MGM Liquor Warehouse, 182 steps from a proposed sober house. Northtown Mall is directly across County 10. Both stability and safety are being sought by Meraki, and as many of us are aware, Northtown in its current state, it's neither stable nor is it necessarily one of the safest areas in our community. This is reflected on the interactive crime map on the City of Blaine's website. My objective tonight is not to criticize the owner's judgment on what is a stable or safe environment for their clients. Instead, I am here as a resident of the community to share my concerns as to why I do not view a sober house at the proposed site as benefiting either those in recovery or our community. The National Institute on Drug Abuse states that roughly 60% of people who go through addiction recovery fall back into substance abuse. This same government organization states a definitive correlation between substance use and crime. Going forward with this sober house puts individuals struggling with addiction steps away from not only a liquor store, but a prime area for substance abuse and crime, hence potential relapse. Relapse is by no means a given, but the stage is set for a trigger as both environment and location are contributing factors in both developing and overcoming addictions. As part of the vicious cycle, relapse poses additional risk of increased drug and crime problems in the Northtown area and its surrounding neighborhoods. Even if Meraki has a zero-tolerance policy, just one relapse and the community social problems that may follow, multiplied by rotating residents at Meraki, provides reason for concern for me as a neighbor and a citizen of the community. I recently received a correspondence from Mayor Sanders as it pertained to the redevelopment of Northtown and its surrounding area. In this correspondence, he said it well, quote, "The overall Northtown area redevelopment is so vast and complex that it will take many years to turn the area around, but we have to start the process now of putting a plan in place to guide the redevelopment," unquote. This area, 182 steps from the proposed sober house, is not yet turned around. Let's stay on the right path to redevelopment. Meraki recovery housing could very, very well be a positive contributor to our community and its battle over drug addiction, but not in the proposed location. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Lee Falk. I live at 913 121st Avenue Northeast, which is the Meraki Recovery Housing. I stand before you tonight as a person in long-term recovery from disease of addiction. I am here to educate and raise awareness about Meraki Recovery Housing, a place that has not only provided me with a safe environment to recover, but also continued or connect with my peers with similar life experiences who help hold me accountable. From my life experiences, everyone has issues with addiction. And in my journey towards recovery, I've always put my faith in God first. I am an active volunteer at Artisan Community Church, where I attend services, participate in Bible studies, and engage in a discipleship class. This involvement has not only strengthened my spirituality, but has also provided me with a support system that I can rely on during my recovery process. Additionally, I'm a proud volunteer on the Blaine Area Little League Board of Directors as the umpire-in-chief. This opportunity has allowed me to give back to the community and engage with young individuals in a positive and healthy way. Through my involvement in the Little League, I've seen firsthand the importance of providing a nurturing and supportive environment for personal growth and development. Recently, I have also taken up employment at 2 separate local small businesses, This newfound stability and responsibility have played a crucial role in my recovery, as it has given me a sense of purpose and direction. It is through these opportunities that I am able to I am rebuilding my life brick by brick, and for that I am immensely grateful. However, none of this would have been possible without the support and guidance of Meraki Recovery Housing. This organization has provided me with a safe place to heal, grow, and rebuild my life. I literally owe Meraki and my life, Krista, who is my guardian angel, along with her husband Grant, who runs this housing facility like a well-oiled machine, ensures that individuals like me and my peers have the support we need every step of the way. Meraki Recovery Housing goes above and beyond just providing a roof over our heads. It offers a community of recovery-minded individuals who understand the struggles we face and are there to support us in our journey towards a healthier and happier life. This sense of camaraderie and accountability is invaluable, and it is the foundation upon which my recovery has been built. In conclusion, I want to express my gratitude for the opportunity to share my story with you tonight. Meraki Recovery Housing has made a profound impact on my life, and I believe it can do the same for others in our community who are seeking help and support in their recovery journey. I hope you'll consider supporting and raising awareness for this invaluable organization. Thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you. Congratulations on your recovery as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, welcome.
Hello, I am John Bruger. I live at a Meraki residence in Ramsey. I'm the assistant manager of the Ramsey Men's House. We have 14 beds, and we have actually less parking, and all of these things that were brought up, I understand. I am a father of 3. I understand you do not want a lot of traffic. I understand you do not want a lot of issues with parking. The home that I live in Ramsey is in an associated neighborhood. We always strive to have the best looking house on the block, and the parking limitations are things that we take very seriously. We don't have people coming and going at all hours, and anybody that does not have a valid driver's license, insurance, and a good working vehicle, they are not allowed to keep the vehicle at the house. It is against the rules, and it is very strictly enforced by the management that is in place. Meraki Recovery Housing operates multiple houses with 14 plus residents, and I owe them my recovery. I have 18 months clean and sober. I have gone from working in a restaurant to a factory to now managing multiple automotive shops down in the Southwest Metro. And I do that because of the support I got at Meraki. Anytime we have addiction, there's always a risk of relapse, and the proximity to businesses, things like that. From my own experience, people that have relapse issues or there is something, the proximity for a liquor store is never an issue. Anybody that has been through anything or watched it, addicts go to large lengths if they're going to. Meraki has given us the ability to not have to worry about any of that. We have the support from multiple people in the house that we know will give their shirt off their back for us. And the structure and the stability that Krista, Grant, and everybody that lives there supports has come from years of experience in the field. And I just hope that you guys can consider the proposal, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. And congratulations on your recovery as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, welcome.
Hi, my name is James Haig, and I live at 913 121st Avenue Northeast. I'm a Rocky resident. Keep it short and sweet. I'm a face. I'm a face of a person who used to fight with addiction. I'm now a recovering addict. I have almost 17 months sober, and a chunk of that is due to places like Meraki Recovery Housing. When I decided to go into a sober house, I did not want a flop. I didn't want to live in a flop house. I didn't want to live in a place where there was no kind of structure, where there was people could do whatever they wanted. The managers didn't do anything. When I had a conversation with Krista prior to moving in, one of the things that she said was that the house that I was interested in had one bed open, and I chose that house for multiple reasons: location, but also because there was so many other people there. If I come home after having a bad day and I need someone to talk to, there's gonna be someone there. My roommate Chris is gonna be there. I'm gonna have an opportunity to be around like-minded individuals. I can't go up to the gas station to some random person at the gas pump and say, hey man, I had a tough day. I'm thinking about going to get high or something like that. Most people aren't going to understand that. The fact that there are 8 other people in the house, including the manager, that all get it has been what has made a huge difference in me in my life with my recovery. Suffice it to say that just they offer a safe place. It was said before, they offer a safe place for us to do what we need to do to get better, to focus on what's going on. I am 38 years old and I work a job. I pay taxes. I do what I can for the community, and I just am grateful for Grant and Krista and Chad and the other people that are in charge of making Meraki the way that it is and giving me a place where there's structure and accountability for the things that I do. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on your recovery as well, man. Good evening.
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Never answer yes. I live right behind that house. Their fence butts up against my fence. Is there going to be a fence? I have a few questions. How is this going to affect property value? Who to call when these druggies, including alcoholics, get in trouble? How much money are they making on per person? I did some research. $600 to $800 per day. And I did the math at 16. That's $3.5 million a year they're generating. Minus the 2, so that's going to be a little less. 3.1, 3.2 million. They're just profiteers. And I'm wondering if there's federal money invested in this, my tax money. Who's going to take care of the lawn and snow care? I need a large fence so they don't throw needles over. And another thing, is the house going to be ADA compliant for handicapped individuals? Is this going to be a male or female house? I was down on Lake Street and I saw some zombies down there. They can't be fixed. They're really messed up down there. What kind of sober people are these going to be? There's just talk about addiction, not as to what the addiction is. And then crime and police reports. Are there going to be illegal immigrants there? Are there going to be curfews, weekend hours? And what are the removal situations for when there is a bad behavior from a patient? Thank you. I am not for this.
All right, good evening. Welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Helen Hansen, 8804 Van Buren Street, Northeast, in Blaine, Minnesota. With this amendment, I know there's a confirmed 2 drug houses that are within a block behind that house. I have a friend that struggles with addiction. That's where he goes. If you look at the stoplights, everything is within walking distance of that house. All those panhandlers are getting their drugs from that house behind there. I mean, it's not just meth, it's everything. You know, the heroin, you walk around, there's syringes. I picked up 3 last week, walking my dog. That's me as an adult, not a child. And this house, I mean, I'm not against sober living. I fight for those people. I tell them, go up to the county, get help. There is a better life. I do. I talk to them. I let them know as I'm trying to get them help. Move along, you know? I sent Lori an email stating in more in depth of what information I know. Due to safety reasons, I'm not exposing that information. But as a community, we are not against recovery. We are, or sober homes. The community is just not prepared for a sober home. The rest of Blaine doesn't look like this. You don't have homeless people on every stoplight like this part of Blaine does. The Northtown Mall is shutting down because who wants to drive through the addicts that are asking for money? Ramsey County and Blaine police departments are well aware of the drug activity in the community. They have not shut down that house or the other house. There is at least 3+ dealers within a block behind that house that's up for sale. And they each have their own source where they get the items. They have people living in their backyards and nobody shuts them down. There's cars in their yard, but yet that's okay. I don't know why they're not being called out or why they're not being shut down. So let's see what else I got here. But like I said, it's gonna not help people. They're gonna be coming home from work from having a rough day, and they're gonna see past 6 homeless people that they can go get high from before they make it home to vent, to, you know, settle down from their rough day. I mean, I don't see it improving the community. And like I said, I'm not against, the whole community is not against sober homes. It's just, we're not ready for it. All right, thank you.
All right, good evening, welcome. Come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Monica Arnellis.
You can pull that down a little bit. There you go.
My name is
Thanks.
Monica Arnellis, and I live at 665 87th Lane, Northeast Blaine. I am right next door to this house. One of my biggest things is safety and feeling comfortable in my home. My brother and I, we purchased this house a couple years ago, and I am 23, and there's a lot of times where he goes to his girlfriend's house or he goes on trips, and I am home alone in this house. And one of my concerns is just being next to multiple people. Sorry. Being next to multiple people that I do not know. There's going to be 14 of them, and I'm just one person. Another thing is, since we are young adults, we do have friends over multiple weeks. We have bonfires, we have get-togethers, there is alcohol, and we're right next door. There isn't a fence, so I can see their backyard. They could see me. Their windows are completely like in view of our backyard. So I guess one of my biggest things is just safety, and then just feeling comfortable again. And I don't know how many people have children or any like daughters or sons if they would feel comfortable with their children being alone, not knowing what's going to happen, or if there's anything that's going to happen at all as well. And if you would be okay with your children, living right next door. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
My name's Janet Zawadski. I live at 8813 Jefferson Street Northeast. Think about what she said. Just think. When you live in a community, it just doesn't belong to you or you or you. It's everyone around that area. We're all neighbors. It's a neighborhood. It's not a business area. It is a neighborhood. When you have a liquor store within a block of this, when you have children playing in streets, when you have 16 residents with friends, family, acquaintances coming and going down this street, you have to picture this street much like this U. It's a dead-end street. It's quiet. It's peaceful. That'll end when you have all this traffic coming and going. They can tell you day and night it's not going to happen, but they said about these people working different shifts. They have friends, they have families. This is not the area for this to happen. You will destroy this area. We're flagged already with drug issues in this area. Homeless people. I can look out my window and several days a week, I will see people that are using drugs. It's scary. It's scary to see that person walking your street where your home is. One night I seen a guy dragging a whole bunch of stuff in the middle of a snowstorm. He was so strung out. He's screaming and yelling and throwing stuff, and you're asking us to take on more problems? Don't do it. You don't live there. You're lucky. We do. Something needs to be done with that area. There's no reason for this. And we cannot handle that coming into our area. It can't happen. You need to stand up for us. Please, do the right thing by us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, good evening, sir. Welcome. Come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi there, my name is Chad. I'm a current resident of Coon Rapids. I am the business manager of Meraki. I started out in one of the sober homes, worked my way up, and now I'm help operating the business. And I would just like to address some of the concerns of some of these people. I think everybody knows that you know this area is not the best because of some of the reasons that has been stated. But I would just like to advocate that we are not going to be the problem. We are going to be the solution to this problem. We're providing a safe place for people in addiction to come and recover. And you know, like Krista was saying, we've had dozens and dozens of residents right here in Blaine and Anoka County that get to recover in their neighborhoods that they grew up in, that succumbed to this addiction that is, you know, very prevalent in the city of Blaine. And I would like to, you know, also say that for those people down on Lake Street, there is hope for them. You know, we do recover, and that's the thing about having 14 to 16, you know, people in one house, is that it's we do recover. It's not an I recovery. This is a we thing, and the opportunity for support is unparalleled in, you know, what it needs to do for our recovery. Some of the other, yeah, the liquor store close by. There's liquor stores everywhere. There's liquor stores, hundreds of liquor stores in every city, county. It's wherever you're gonna go. Yes.
There's
Yep.
still no talk of drugs. What drugs we're talking about? Alcohol.
And so you don't need to communicate with them. You can just let us know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, you know, the stigma is very real. But the people that are struggling with this addiction, they deserve to recover in their hometown as well. And we're giving them the possibility to do that. And I hope you guys can see that, and I hope you approve this reasonable accommodation. Thank you.
Thank you. And congrats on your recovery as well. That's great. Good evening. Welcome. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Carissa Mancini. I live at 647 87th Lane. I am 2 doors down from this beautiful home. I have 2 high schoolers. My son is 16 years old, and I have a daughter who's 14. I have kids at my house all the time. I have super cute. They're cute little girls. They wear little, little things that, probably attract an eye, but that's what concerns me the most, is having a group of guys. Do we decide if it's guys or girls? We don't know? Okay. Well, anyway, I do come from a recovery. I worked at New Way, and it was a house full of 30 guys. And I know how the traffic is. I know how, I've worked it, I've been in it, I've lived in it, basically. So I know that there's gonna be a lot of traffic, and this whole neighborhood is just very quaint and nice, and it's just gonna uproot it all. And it's just too bad. We really enjoy our quiet, nice neighborhood, and to keep our kids safe, it's just like, there's so many other homes out there, just not this street, But I'm all for recovery, I'm all for, for them having a better life, and they do need homes to stay in and to be in the community, but just not this street. The street is quiet and nice, and there's tons of kids everywhere, and it will definitely put a lot of traffic on this street. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. Welcome.
How you doing?
Doing well.
My
How
name
are
is
you?
Richard Janik, and I live at 913 121st Avenue, Northeast Blaine, Minnesota. And I am a Meraki manager of the Meraki Sober House in Blaine here. And I just want to say that we have very strict rules and regulations that all of my guys follow. And I make sure that they know that they need to focus on being successful and moving forward, And for the people that have to deal with Northtown, we all understand that Northtown is not in good shape. So I don't understand why we wouldn't want to put something that would better the community in place with rules and regulations. These rules and regulations are gonna focus on getting these people into a successful future. Just like me, I'm almost 3 years sober. I couldn't have did it without these guys, These guys saved my life, and we're a family. I have children. They all have children. We're human beings, and we're successful.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on your recovery. It's amazing. Good evening. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Roker, and I'm at 1025 89th Avenue in Blaine here. I have lived in the house that I'm in for 50 years. I have watched this neighborhood for 50 years. I understand what has happened when I see a lot of the homeless people sleeping on my sidewalk. When I found out that this sober house was going to be put into place, I was so excited. I said, we need this here. I've watched my children go from addiction to being great supporting members of society. And one of them is in the Meraki house, and I'm very grateful for the Meraki house. So knowing that this beautiful house right down the road from my house was gonna be opened up for this opportunity, I thought, this is a great opportunity. This is something I've been just elated about, because I don't get to walk around Northtown and see the fish tank and do all the fun stuff I did as a kid, but I want the kids growing up in our neighborhood to see what a wonderful neighborhood this is. And I am very for this this house. I think I think we need something in this community. And I see how strict they are. I don't see it as, like some of the halfway houses is what you'd call it, is what I've heard. This is not run like a halfway house. This is just a beautiful environment for people to grow and become great members of society. So, and I owe my life and my children to getting sober and clean from this group. So I think it's a great group. That's all I have.
Thank you. Good evening, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Tim Clancy, 648 87th Lane Northeast. Half of my career working, now that I'm retired, half of my career working, I worked in jail atmospheres and court atmospheres as a bailiff in courtrooms and things like that for Hennepin County. In that position, I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people who were in trouble in their lives. Many of them, I would ask, as I was accompanying them around, I would say, what got you in trouble? Was it alcohol or drugs or what happened? Because generally speaking, most of them had decent behavior in their hearts and in their minds. But they went astray, and different things led them astray. And a lot of times it was a chemical of some kind. And my congratulations to everyone here who has overcome that. Thank you very much. And we appreciate you being a good member of society, even in the neighborhood where I live. We still appreciate that you people are working forward and making that. And I can tell you from my employment and my connection with the system in that area that there are a lot of people who suffer what you went through, and so many of them would say, I never should have started on that marijuana. It just led me off. And now we're going to legalize that, so that's another matter yet. But the particular neighborhood that I live in there has a lot of retired senior citizens and things like that, and I don't think it's quite ready for this program. The program is very important and essential to our society. There's no question about it. The more we can help people move forward and be productive in our society, the better off we will be, no doubt about it. And appreciate the program that is helping them in that. But being a member of this neighborhood myself, we have a lot of people there and a lot of children, as has been brought up, and all those things in the past. It's very important that remain still as it is in that particular area. But we appreciate your considering this, and as a retired person, I'd like to just know that I can just relax and no problems. And yes, we have homeless people in the woods right next to my house. The city makes no efforts to move them at all, unless they start a fire or something like that. And yes, that's unfortunate that the community takes that kind of behavior as just routine and no big deal if they're there. But the neighborhood that I live in has a lot of children that are growing up, and they need the area to function and move forward in their lives too, just as the people who are in the program are moving forward in their lives. And I'm proud of all of them.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, good evening, come on up.
Hello, my name is Brandon Schuda. I live at 8822 Van Buren Street, Northeast in Blaine. I do support recovery. I do just not wish to have a house close to mine. My wife and I had a newborn about a month ago, and I wish for the neighborhood to stay quiet and safe. Whether or not that is possible with the house being, amended there or whatever, I want my son to have a quiet, safe place to grow up, and I do not support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Jordan.
Good evening.
638 88th Avenue, right behind that house. I thought of a few things. I did. all these people, are they all alcoholics? I saw a sign one time. It said, "Dry your son's eyes, put the bottle down." Somebody here goes home to their 3 kids. Isn't that enough to stop them from drinking? And a solution to the problem can't just be complaints. So the solution is Northtown Mall. Put them in there. Plenty of room. And
Okay,
Make
we're
it-
not going to, no.
it's an option. Thank you.
All right, good evening, sir. Come on up.
My name is Devin Argy. I live at 913 121st Avenue Northeast. I am currently 11 months sober because of Grant and Krista's house. It supports a family atmosphere. Between me and all my brothers back here, we have at least 9.5 years of sober time combined. I hear all the concerns. They're very genuine. But having a sober home in this neighborhood where there is so much turmoil, we can be that success story to these people on the streets. We can be that hope for people that right now don't have any. And we can show them that, look, you may have a past, but you can progress and you can get better and you can be successful.
Thank you very much. Good evening, welcome.
Hi, thanks. Scott Higgemiller, 8722 Van Buren Street Northeast. You know, I'm not used to talking. A year ago or so, there was a meeting to put, where the old Rainbow Foods was, to put a apartment building there. And I saw it as a good opportunity for people to move in, help out our community, raise money and whatnot. I thought it was a good idea, but it did not pass to make that commercial area flex or residential. And that's fine, I understand, that happens. But now this neighborhood is being asked to take on what I consider another business, because there's already a group home, there's already fourplexes, there's a tree service on that cul-de-sac. And yes, the tree service isn't horrible, but it's people coming in and out of that road, it's logging and whatnot, or trees coming in and out of that road, that neighborhood. And I mean, I'd love to see it be a house again, you know, a family living there in that house again. And I understand that this was a great opportunity for this group, and what they do is good. It's good stuff, and it's being spiritually led and everything. I understand that, and it's a great place for them. But it's just, how much business are we going to put into this neighborhood? I don't know. I do not support this. I support this group and these men and people, all of them. But I just don't feel good about this. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Sir, come on up. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Wade Koska. I live right across the road from this house, 87th Lane. A lot of the things were mentioned that's in my notes here, but I'd like to run through my questions, notes real quick here, and let you know how I feel. Will firearms or other weapons be allowed in this recovery house? Will there be metal detectors at the entrance and exits of this house? Will sex offenders be allowed to take residence in this recovery house? If so, will neighbors be notified? And these questions are on safety, parking, traffic, general impact on the neighborhood and the environment. How many trees will be cut down to make parking lot big enough for the residents and all their visitors? Or will they park on the street? Loss of trees contribute to global warming. This house is on a dead-end street with no sidewalk, and on a nice day, because it's a dead-end street with very little traffic. People enjoy all sorts of outdoor recreation on that dead-end road with no sidewalk. So I ask this question: is there a risk of a resident relapsing to a return of alcohol or drug use and driving their car into these people and killing them? So I'm just putting a recovery house in this neighborhood is a bad idea. So I would like to see it stay as is, single family, all related. That's it.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing no more, we have one more?
More.
All right, good evening, welcome.
Hello, yes, good evening. I'm Mary Ann Jordan. I live behind that house, and I've lived there for close to 70 years. And I've raised 8 kids in that neighborhood, and I could let them run and play. I never had to worry about them because I knew all the neighbors and every house around there knew all the kids. And if the kids got into something, one of the neighbors would call me, and I would know about it before they even got home. They thought I had special powers. But now my great-grandchildren come over. Now, am I going to have to worry about them? My goodness, after all these years, I got to start worrying about great-grandchildren. And my sister was killed by a hit-run driver drinking. I don't want to run into this. That was so grievous. And this isn't, I agree they need a home. But it should be out in a rural area, not in a nice neighborhood like this with neighbors who want to be friends with each other. We used to get together with all our neighbors and have coffee and go out dancing and have garage parties. We did so many things together, and the neighbors, they wouldn't move it because we all enjoyed each other so much. And now this is going to ruin the whole neighborhood. So, but I do agree they need a place, but it's out further, not here. This isn't the neighborhood for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, come on up. Welcome, name and address for the record, please.
Roseanne Olson, 8815 Tyler Street. I moved into this neighborhood 7 years ago. My husband and I welcomed our first child. Now we are a family of 5. In the past 7 years, I've seen more and more young families move into the neighborhood. I've also seen an increase in crime. For example, theft and drug deals and people with housing insecurity squatting in a vacant home in Laddie Lake Park. We all want our neighborhood to be a safe, stable, and desirable place to live. I don't feel allowing 14 individuals in recovery supports this. We need more stability and security in our neighborhood as it stands. I request the City of Blaine decline Meraki Recovery Housing's request to purchase this property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing no one else in line, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. Thank you all so much for your participation in the public hearing, and everyone did a really good job of keeping to the time limits, which really helped us as well. So thank you all for all of your comments. We appreciate that. I think before we get into motion, we'll just go into questions or discussion from council, and we'll open it up from there. So who would like to go first with any questions or discussion? Councilmember Larson.
Thank you. I have a question for our lawyer, Tom Lunan. There was a question asked about if some of these residents would have records, such as sex offenders or any other records that, does that have to be disclosed, or can they have records, or do we know anything about that?
Yeah, I would, as far as who's going to be residing in the home potentially, I would defer to the applicant to maybe speak to that question. And if the chief wants to chime in, I don't think with regards to where this home is located, whether there's any residential restrictions specifically that are applicable. But then as far as the home itself, probably better directed to the applicant as to who would be there.
Residency restrictions for us are usually based on if somebody's a registered predatory offender. Commonly, sometimes that can be a sex offender, but it can also be a type of predatory crimes, and those are governed by state law and not the facility itself by state law. And it all depends on what type of offender they are and what their risk level is, and that also dictates where they can live as well. So they are required, if someone does, I don't know if anyone does or not, and I'm not saying they do, but if someone does much like anywhere in the city, they are required to register, and that is separate than being a sober living facility. Does that make sense?
Sure, I can answer that. Well, there's a lot of varieties of sober homes and what they cover and things like that. Our policy is we have an application process that they do online. The application goes to me, and then I do a full criminal background check on them. So disqualifiers for our sober living would be sex offenders or violent offenders would be a disqualifier from allowing them to be in our sober home, if that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion from council? Thoughts? Councilmember Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I have a question for you, Bob. I know in the previous application, some of the concern that the city had was regarding occupancy and safety, like literal fire code, not being able to, if God forbid something terrible would happen, not being able to assess that situation properly. Did any of that come up in here? Because I noticed like this has to happen and then you go in and check for those things, so it seems a little backwards.
Yeah, currently, the applicant does not own the home. Once they have ownership of the home, then we would go in and do an inspection. The sober license would not be issued even with an approval tonight. A sober license wouldn't be issued until they met those requirements of that inspection, all the life safety and property maintenance requirements. But as of this time, we have not done an inspection, so that is one of the contingencies that would have to be met in order to issue that license.
Okay, perfect. And I just have one other really quick follow-up question. I know on the parking diagram, you had indicated you want to remove, 6, 7, or whatever it was. Are they still allowed to park in the street?
No, they would be parking on site, the units 6, or the spots identified as 6 and 7. That is a rear garage that has an access way to it, but not a driveway, so they can't have vehicles parked there. So those vehicles would have to be located in the paved driveway, and it's a large, if you look at it's kind of hard to see on the Anoka County aerial, but it's a large driveway that would easily accommodate that parking. There would be no off-street parking.
But street parking, okay, no off-street parking. Okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, no on-street parking.
Okay, okay.
Get that.
Do you want me to make additional comments too, or is this just for questions?
No, go ahead.
All right. I mean, I think you would have to be not human if you weren't moved by the comments made in this room by the people that live on this street and love their neighborhood, and by the people who were super brave. My gosh, you guys, I don't even want to tell you when I have to buy size up my pants, and you guys came in here and shared like really personal recovery sort of things, and that's really huge. And I get irritated and frustrated when there's comments made. It almost feels out of ignorance. These men and women are trying to better themselves. We don't need off-the-cuff comments about needles and insensitive things like that. Is there issues in the Northtown area? There absolutely are, and law enforcement is aware of those issues, and we are doing our best as a city to identify that entire area to try to move some of that stuff out. So, I just want to acknowledge the human element on both sides. I hear the people that live on this street. It's personal to you. It's your day-to-day lives. It's your kids. You raised your grandkids, your kids, your great-grandkids. I don't think anyone wants to belittle any of those things. My challenge, quite honestly, is just the location does not seem to make sense to me. And again, I do not want to lose the human element in this. I do not want to be insensitive. I want to have as much empathy as I possibly can. But for me, the location doesn't make sense. Recovery and adjacent liquor stores, to me, just don't work hand in hand. Now, I'm not saying that it's not a proven method, the multiple housed roommate situation. Just, to me, it doesn't make sense. And I think one of the neighbors made a really good point. Your neighborhood's not ready to support something like this. Again, I want to thank you for being sensitive to what the ask is, because there really are people in our community, and this is why I love our community. I think most of us would support the opportunity for people that need help to get it. But just for me, and I know Councilmember Soraya, you have some comments as well, probably a lot more strong than mine, just because this is your ward, but to me, it just doesn't make sense. But I just, again, felt very important to acknowledge that human element, 'cause I think that got lost for a little bit here, but we're all human beings, whether we agree or we disagree, we're all human beings, and at one point in time, we all needed help from somewhere. Maybe it was an ideal somewhere, maybe it was an unideal somewhere, but I mean, I would just suggest that we keep that human element front and center, please and thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Robertson. Councilmember Newland.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with a lot of the comments that just stated. I'm not thrilled with putting a business, which it is, like this into the Northtown proper area. Northtown has enough other challenges that we are faced with now and will continue to be faced with, that we are looking for solutions. Adding this type of business to the area complicates it, and I'm not comfortable doing that. Secondly, I too live on a dead-end road, the end of a cul-de-sac. And similar to this street, there aren't a lot of homes there, and if there were 16 more residents that came in, that would be a dramatic increase in traffic on a very small street. And I do think that comment is very valid, it's very real. That's a massive increase, influx of activity on a cul-de-sac street. So to me, it's relatively simple that those two factors in and of themselves outweigh most of the other concerns that I have. I don't like the fit. If I could ask for clarification from the city attorney with a comment that was made prior to the start of the meeting here about what exactly is this decision based upon, because the state requirement to add a sober home with a number of residents is not applicable here, is what I heard you to say.
Attorney Lunan.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Newland. It's my understanding this facility is not a state licensed facility, so those state requirements and the permissions wouldn't apply because they have to be state licensed. That said, just to summarize, because there was a lot of discussion from the public after Director Fisk had given his presentation, I think it is good just to refocus and summarize. What is before council tonight is two separate considerations. The first consideration is whether or not the applicant, whether or not council will consider approval of a license for the applicant. Our statute, we don't outlaw these uses. We can't outlaw these uses. Our statute has our ordinance has a licensing scheme, and there's criteria that's been put forward, and to review that and to consider whether or not license is approved. If council were to determine that license is approved, what that permits in this area is 4 individuals to live there. And that's what's permitted under statute on approval, under the ordinance on approval of the license. The second request is this reasonable accommodation request, where the applicant has asked for us to expand the amount of people that are permitted beyond the 4 to 16. And again, our ordinance provides for a procedure and a scheme in considering whether or not that accommodation would be granted. So there are two separate questions, and the criterias are set forth within our ordinance. There's some fair housing standards that may come into play, but in this instance, I think really we're looking at our ordinance and how that applies here in considering first if we would approve the license, which would grant the 4, and then whether or not the reasonable accommodation would be granted. But ultimately, with regard to the state requirements and the permissions under statute, those don't apply in this instance because it's my understanding this is not a state licensed facility.
Thank you. And for the discretion that the council has given, it sounds like we have a fair amount of discretion that we could simply decide that we don't want to approve the license. And we certainly, if we didn't do that, then we wouldn't expand the number of residents. Is that correct?
Correct. If the license doesn't go forward, then there's no reason to consider the reasonable accommodation. The way that the ordinance is written, it does provide council some discretion, but there are criteria still that you should be looking at, and that's that criteria under 18.511 that sets forth the sober living home, licensure standards, and consideration of approval. But yes, there is a pursuant to your ordinance in making considerations on this question of whether or not you'll issue the license as a city, there is discretion to the council.
Thank you.
Other questions or discussion? Councilmember Soroya.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think I'm the only council member that lives on this side of town and closest to this residence. And I understand that council has discretion over this matter. So I will be voting no on this. I'm really, moved by some of the stories that were stated here. I applaud and admire those of you that had the courage to stand up and share your journey with us and your stories with us. And this neighborhood also applauded you. And I think that really shows the culture and the sincerity of this neighborhood. And I experienced that firsthand. This neighborhood is really special to me because, I don't live directly there, but, when, and I don't want to talk about campaigns, but when I was door knocking, this was the first neighborhood I knocked in. And I was scared to death, to be very honest, of door knocking, going to a community dressed like this and not knowing what to expect. And the first house that I knocked on was the home, I don't remember the individual, but it's right next to the free little library that you all have in that corner. And this really sweet lady was so open and, had really great conversations with me. And it really changed how I interacted with the community, that this wasn't just about being up here and winning an election. This is really about representing our community and making sure that we do right by all of you. And that is something that I hold dearly, that I bring up every single time I'm up here, that it doesn't matter, if this impacts me personally or not, we need to do what is in the best interest of Blaine. And, we talked about, being good neighbors. And being a good neighbor includes respecting the safety and the security of the neighborhood that you're moving into. The woman that spoke, next door that's in tears and terrified, that really touched me. And I'm so sorry that you all have been clearly stressed out by this and dealing with this. This is not what should bring you to City Hall. That is really unfortunate. And for that, I apologize that this is what took your evenings and your time with your families to come here and address. This is the first that as a council, we received this. So this is not something that came to workshop or a commission. This is the first time that this came to me before, except for your emails and phone calls. So in terms of the safety issue, I think the biggest concern I have here is this is a cul-de-sac. This is a private cul-de-sac, and I've seen kids riding bikes. I've seen the mothers pushing their strollers, and I don't understand how we add 16 people into this area, into one home, and not have it impact the culture of that street, the quiet street, the family-friendly environment. Even the parking capacity, you mentioned the garage has 6 stalls. There's a rear garage. But we're talking about 16 cars plus guests. Like, where are we putting those if we're not putting them on the street? Previously, this was a single-family home, correct? So even though it's a large home, it has a lot of land, the assumption is it was a family with children, maybe some extended family. It wasn't set up to be a business. It wasn't set up to be a residence with 16 individuals who are going to be in and out throughout the day. And I think the other thing that really concerns me is that there are existing challenges in this neighborhood, which all of you spoke so eloquently about. I understand there were several home break-ins in this neighborhood. A few weeks ago, I think just about 3 weeks ago, there were several catalytic converter thefts throughout your neighborhood. And I don't know if that was even brought to the attention because you deal with it so often, and I'm so sorry that you have to deal with this over and over again. We've heard about the alleged drug house nearby, and so these are things that I will personally commit to following up on. And I don't want to put more of a burden on anybody in this room and have you deal with, I know there's issues with the parks and homelessness in your parks, drug deals happening on your streets with, and I bring these up, I'm like a broken record up here because I bring up these issues and make the people that don't live in that area aware of what that part of Blaine has turned into. Because it wasn't like that. I have lived in my house for 20 years, and it was not like that when I moved. And you become attached to the neighbors and the people that you live with. You can't just move, right? I get that. So I'm committed, I think we all are committed to improving that neighborhood. And I have started documenting some of the specifics that you all mentioned. And so what will be helpful is to continue sending us the specific information. Where is the crime taking place, where, and so we can follow up. We have an amazing police department. I think we all agree. We have an amazing police chief that will follow up, that does follow up. So we need to be made aware of these specific issues so we can follow up. And I don't want to, like I said, burden you with more things. You should not be the ones having to look out for vehicles parked on the street and having to report it when you're already dealing with so much. So I'm a strong no on this, and I encourage the rest of the city council to also vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councilmember Larson.
Thank you. I agree that there was definitely a human element, as Councilmember Robertson had said, to everybody who spoke tonight. Thank you for everybody who came out on both sides of this issue. I took a lot of notes on what people had said on both sides. Some of the things that had really stuck out to me, I'm a big advocate of children, having 5 children myself, and it really stuck out to me that there was no sidewalks on this street. There's a lot of kids on this street. And I relate on a very deep level with the 23-year-old resident who lives next door to this when she talked about her safety and her comfort. And I think that is something that is also important. As a mother of 2 of my children were adopted from the foster care system with addicted parents. And while I feel very strongly for people who are going through recovery, I too understand very much what she had said about feeling unsafe around people who are going through recovering and not knowing their behavior at certain times and how it's going to go on any particular day. And so I think that safety and comfort is very important to have. And as a resident, you deserve to feel that way. So I just really resonated with what she had to say. I just don't feel it's the responsibility of the children and the families who live on that street to be participants in the recovery process of the adult recovery residents. So I think that their safety and their comfort really matter as well. And for that, I will be voting no as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Masolia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I can go. I think I'm the odd one out here. One of the things that I'm really proud about here in the city of Blaine is our amazing community support that we have for law enforcement and our amazing police department. I think we're a large growing city here in the metro, and I think all of us here on this council and around this dais, you would say we fully support, funding our safety services. We applaud when our officers get the DUI all-star, and we want to live in a crime-free, drug-free community. We really do, and I really want to see that happen. But sober homes are part of that. They really are, and I understand that it's hard when it's your neighborhood. I understand that it's hard when it's in your backyard, and to be honest, I might have that same perspective if it was my neighborhood. I really might. It might be hard for me. But we're a top 10 city now, and it's really hard for me to see Blaine as a place that is going to say no to sober homes. I think that they're a really essential part of a healthy, hopeful society. And, the sober home that's in our ward, in Ward 3, we've had a couple minor complaints, but overall, the neighbors have really, appreciated you guys, and there haven't been any major issues. And I live in the neighborhood where your guys' house is, and, there hasn't been any problems. So I do think that, unfortunately, when people hear, oh, sober home, recovering addicts, they kind of have this negative, fearful, oh no, what's going to happen? What's it going to be like? What if? But I really hope that we as a city can eventually kind of turn the corner and see sober homes as a place of hope, as a place of recovery, as a place of healing, as a place where people do get an example of what it's like to kind of come back from some bad things in life. So for me, really the only issue with this was the parking. I was kind of looking at this and I was like, well, this, maybe is a lot of people for the parking as I was kind of trying to objectively look at it. But to hear that we as a council don't even want to approve a license for a sober home here is disappointing to me. But it sounds like we don't have the votes to do it. So I will digress.
Thank you, Councilmember Masolia. Appreciate that. I appreciate the initial questions or discussion. We'll get into a motion here in just a moment. These are always tough issues that come before a city council because no matter what, there's not everybody wins here tonight. In fact, some people will lose far more than others, right? And that's the decision that we get to make here this evening. First off, to so many of the residents, again, that took time out of your busy schedule, your families, all that to come here on a Monday night and spend your evening with us. We appreciate it. And know that your concerns and your fears and the unknown and all of that, it's real, it's valid, it's yours. It's what you have right now. That's where you're at. And so we certainly appreciate that and we hear everything that you're saying. I will say this in particular, I don't like hearing that there's drug houses in our community. I don't like hearing that there's drug use in the community. We've known that there's an issue in this area, but Chief, we might need to address that more seriously. We're going into the budget phase right now. We'll talk about it, but we can't have neighborhoods continuing to feel like nothing's being done. I know that we're addressing this in some ways, but we've got to figure out what the answer is and what the solution is to bring this neighborhood back up on par to where it was, and of the vision that we have for this entire part of the city, for the revitalization of this entire part of the city, because we know how great the residents are in this part of the city, and they're looking for that revitalization, and they're looking for that quiet, safe place to raise their families. And so we need to certainly do our part to make sure that is being, that we're doing everything we can to help deliver that. That's really our core function of government, is to provide the safety for the residents. And so we need to continue to work on that, and we'll continue to work on that. And we need your help too on that. Don't just certainly send us emails, let us know, but you need to be calling the police. We need to be documenting this. We need to be able to have our officers and our public safety teams respond in this. When you're dealing with these issues, that's how it gets dealt with in the near future. You have problems with neighbors or drug homes, you need to call us and let us know, because we have 34 square miles, over 200 city miles of streets and roads here. No matter how amazing we all are, we can't be here every single day. We can't drive down every single one. We need your help. When you let us know, that allows us to go into response mode and respond and really dive into those things. So we do depend on your help as well. I will say this, I've had the privilege, though, of getting to know people that own sober homes and work in recovery, and the work that they do is unbelievable. Recovery is so crucial. It's something that can't happen just outside of our community, and we hope it happens somewhere else. That can't be the answer. Is this particular home in this particular spot? I don't know if that's the answer tonight. It doesn't sound like council wants to go there, but Blaine has to be a part of that solution. We have to be a community that when people are in recovery, they're saying that community is so strong, I want to be a part of that community. I want to end up getting myself better so that I can help other people and pull other people along in recovery and give back to the community and serve on my church board and serve on the Little League board. We have to be a community that's okay with that. We have to be a community that wants that. We have to. That's Blaine. We have to be. It can't be anywhere else but my backyard. And not all of you said that this evening. But this has to be something that we take as a society, as a community, and say, we want to help. We want to be a part of the solution. At least the 5 individuals that spoke this evening were extremely impressive. To see themselves pull their lives up and make something of their lives, I mean, that's inspiring. I do want my kids to be around that. I do. Say, no matter what life throws at you, there's a will. When you live in a strong community, in a good community, you can be better. You can get better, and we can do that together. So we've got to be a community that rallies around some of this, because if all of us look deeply in the mirror long enough, not many of us can throw the first stone. So I know that the fear of the unknown is scary. I know that. I do. I get it. I'm a father. Lived in Blaine. My kids have been born and raised here. I get it. I've lived 3-4 houses down from a group home. I get it. We have sober homes in Blaine. They really don't have complaints in the neighborhood. They do a great job. They're a part of the neighborhood. But I get it. I get the fear of the unknown. I understand the concerns. I'm not saying your concerns aren't valid. But I do think as we grow as a community, we've got to really address this. We've got to really do some soul searching and say, how do we do this together? How can we provide a positive support? How can we be a part of the solution? And how can we allow them to get better? And how can we help them in their recovery? How can they help improve our neighborhood? Sober homes are not all, it's not what maybe you think it was years ago. In fact, I've gotten to know the mayor of Crystal a little bit, who actually owns a bunch of sober homes, the mayor of Crystal, and had some conversations with him again, because I know these are touchy issues with residents. He owns, I think, sober homes at, I think, bed about 87 men, I think is the last number I heard from him. And there's a lot of pride there in helping people turn their lives around and be the best that they can be, which I think is all of our goals for us, for all of our kids. And so I do want Blaine to be able to play a role in that, whether the license is for this particular neighborhood or not. I get a lot of the valid concerns, but I do think Blaine has to be a place where we say yes to sober homes and to sober living and helping people in their recovery stay on their path of recovery, because it's not just a one-day journey, it's the rest of the life journey. And so we all need to be a part of that. We need to welcome them with open arms, take their inspirations, help them stay on their pathway of recovery. And I guarantee you'll be a better person too, because you'll see the deficiencies in your own life, and it'll encourage you and inspire you to be the best that you can be. So, Chief, let's do everything we can to clean up the drug use, the drug homes, whatever it is. Let's get in there. Let's really come up with great plans. You let us know what support you need from us, because I know you are working on it. I know you are. I know we're doing a lot to try to clean up Laddie Lake right now as well. So I don't want to give it any of that impression, but let's really target our effort around this part. And again, I know that you are, but if we need more resources, you need more support from us as a council, we certainly need to respond to that, because this neighborhood, I don't want to have to hear this, more public forums about how you're walking over homeless people and picking up needles, as you're walking your dog. That should not happen in this city. So we need to look at solutions, and it's not just, police picking them up, but we got to come up with solutions for how do we deal with the homeless population? What do we do? Those are complex questions in search of complex answers. But we do need to start targeting this particular part of the city and do what we can to improve and clean it up, for sure. Our residents deserve that. Our entire city deserves that. So I don't know, again, where everything is going to land if the license isn't approved, or this home in particular isn't approved. I do think that Blaine, though, and I am very comfortable being on the record saying we need to be a place for sober living and recovery. And we need to be a community that supports that and works together as well. You're not these people. You're absolutely amazing individuals that have done a tremendous amount of work. And so we appreciate you, and thanks for reinvesting in our community. Again, I think most of you are serving the community, living in the community. You're doing what you can to improve the community. So that should not go without being noticed and mentioned and congratulated. So thank you. Chief Padani.
Mayor, if it's okay, and council members, I'd like to do something a little bit
Please do.
unconventional. When we're done with this, I'd like to invite the residents of this area just to stop across the hall. I'll meet them over in the Cloverleaf room for 5 minutes, just to chat on a couple things over there and kind of let them know where we're at, what's on the horizon, and invite them to get involved. So,
I think that would be excellent for those that can stick around. Get to interact with our amazing police chief and hopefully learn some, but as well, let him know what's happening in your community firsthand. So thank you, Chief. That's very generous. Thank you. Councilmember Soroya.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, if it's okay, I'd like to make a motion to deny 9.1 sober living home application and reasonable accommodation request at 691 87th Lane Northeast.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Soroya, second by Councilmember Newland. Questions or discussion? Councilmember Larson.
A lot of what you said was wonderful. Part of what kind of stuck out is that you had mentioned that it's the responsibility of the community to accept sober living, but I don't feel at all that it is a responsibility of a 23-year-old girl who's mostly home alone. That is not her responsibility in the home that she bought to be next door to a home where she does not feel safe. Her safety is what is most her responsibility. And I don't feel it is the responsibility of mothers of kids, as the grandmother had said, who's teaching her grandchild to ride a bike on their street with no sidewalk. That is not her responsibility to take that on, I don't feel. So while I believe that it's a good message in theory, I still feel that residents' fear, and whether, real or not, valid sometimes, sometimes not, their comfort is still very important. And I think that that's something that's getting lost nowadays a lot, that we have to put our fear and comfort aside. And I don't think that that's their responsibility. And so I will be voting no to what you just had said with the denial.
Councilmember Masolia.
Thank you. And I understand what you're saying, Councilmember Larson. I guess I would just ask then, we're trying to look at this and, we're saying we want to be a community that does say yes to sober homes. So if you're saying we can't put sober homes on streets with children or streets with, single women, I feel like that's going to be a really hard ask for us as a city. So where can we put them if we're not going to be putting them on streets with children or houses that have single women? So I think that's just something to consider with all of this.
Any other questions or discussion to the motion? The motion is to deny. Attorney Lunan, is this the approval of the license, or is this why don't you just clarify for everyone so we know the ramifications of the vote?
I believe on the record, Councilmember Soroya stated it as a motion to deny both the license and the reasonable accommodation. I think the discussion and the record that's established here sets forth a basis that council has determined in moving forward with that motion. I don't think that there's a need for us to bifurcate, and I think we can take it as one issue. I mean, unless Director Fisk feels differently.
No, I believe that if we had a denial for the sober license, there would be no need for the accommodations.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion before we move to a vote on the motion? Okay, seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed? No. That motion prevails. Next up on the agenda is agenda item 10.1. Yeah. Yeah, we'll give everyone just a moment to scoot out. And if everybody would like to, whoever would like to meet with the chief in the Cloverleaf room, it's just right across the hall. And we still have many exciting things if you'd like to stick with us on this agenda.
I agree.
All right, next up on the agenda is agenda item 10.1, and we will turn things over to our city planner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I would like to review item 10.1 and item 10.2 at the same time. The applicant.
If we could, everyone, as you're exiting, please exit quietly and someone shut the door. That'd be very helpful. Thank you. Go ahead, city planner.
Thank you. So I'd like to review item 10.1 and item 10.2 together.
You?
The applicant is requesting a extension for their conditional use permit and a variance that was granted in 2022. The conditional use permit was for a 2,613 square foot pole building, and the variance was to the front yard setback. This is for property at 12640 Radisson Road. Construction has not started due to health issues of the family. No changes have occurred to the applicable code sections and no physical changes in the surrounding area. Just as a reminder, you do have to commence construction within 1 year for a variance and for the conditional use permit. The City Council has discretion to approve or deny the extension. You can either approve the resolution that's in the packet for approval of the extension for the conditional use permit and the variance, and that would bring them out to August 15th of 2024, or adopt a motion denying the request and identify the findings for denial, and then direct staff to bring that forward to the next council meeting for adoption. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Sheila. Appreciate the presentation. Members, I'll accept a motion on 10.1. Moved by Councilmember Robertson.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Newland. Questions or discussion?
Did you move to approve or deny?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Councilmember Masolia, I move to approve the extension.
Awesome. Then I will support it.
All right. Any other questions or discussion before we vote? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion on 10.1, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion prevails. Members of motion, please, on 10.2.
I'll move to
Moved by
approve.
Councilmember Masolia,
Second.
second by Councilmember Larson. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. Next up on the agenda, agenda item 10.3. We'll go back to the city planner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. What we have before you tonight is a second reading for a zoning code amendment for the non-conforming structure uses section of the code, which is 26.06. Staff is proposing to, or for this code amendment, for some of the upcoming Highway 65 projects and other projects where we have right-of-way or land taken away for federal, government, local.
So I don't know how that works. Do I be happy to make a motion to
From the engineer of 100 to bid it with a 25-year warranty, which they all did. So this also includes a 25-year warranty on all the parts and everything else in the lighting. And the low bid was Kunkel Electric out of Mapleton. So, and we've worked with them before. So tonight, we're here to ask to accept the bid and also a 10% contingency, making the total cost of $190,850. And with that, I'll open up for questions.
Thank you, Jerome. Appreciate it.
Two of the residents on the cul-de-sac gave testimony in opposition to the request of the no parking, and one spoke